Would it surprise you to know that the St. Joseph area is kind of a weird place to live? Now, I hear you laughing, but I mean weird in a good way. Good, weird. And if you've lived here for a long time, or if you were born here and you've mostly spent your life here, you probably don't notice the inherent good weirdness of this part of the state anymore. But people who come here from other places, like myself, that are transplants, we notice it. For example, one of the first things that we noticed when we moved here is that when you're out in public and you're, say, going into a grocery store or into a public building and there's a person ahead of you, they invariably will open the door for you and let you go in ahead of them. Now, you might not think that's weird, but if you've lived anywhere else, and particularly in a major city somewhere, people don't do that for each other. People don't even pay attention to each other in big cities. And then I was talking to a gentleman this week who has lived here for about 15 years, but he moved here from New York City. And he was telling me that when he first moved here and he'd be driving on the street and another car would pass him coming the other way, the person would have their hands on the steering wheel, but their pinky finger would go up. Now, being for him from New York, he thought that gesture meant something that it didn't. And it took him a while to realize that when people pass each other in this neck of the woods, in the cars, that's how you say hello. You raise your pinky finger to a stranger. And actually, I didn't notice that till he told me that. And then this week, I've noticed like 5 people doing that to me as I drive by. There is an inherent weirdness, a good weirdness, to living here. You know, there are communities around the country that have decided to celebrate their weirdness. There are places like Austin, Texas, that have decided to celebrate that they're weird by even having the slogan, keep Austin weird. Keep it weird. And they put this on bumper stickers. And what they really mean by that, and some people mean, well, we want to keep it from being corporatized. We want to make sure that we just don't become a place of big box stores and chain restaurants. We want to celebrate what is local about us, celebrate local businesses and local restaurants and the local flavor and the local arts of things. And what others mean by that is we want to be authentically who we are. We want to be real about who we are. So I wondered about applying that to the church. What if we had this notion that we want to keep the church weird? That we want to be authentically who we are. We want to be real about what the church really is. I kind of think this is what Paul's getting at in this excerpt we have today from the letter to the Romans, to the Roman church. And we need to remember that's not just like one big church like us, but it's probably a lot of little house churches meeting. And Paul is saying to them, don't be conformed to the world. Don't be conformed, but be transformed by the renewing of your minds. Now, the scholar William Loader says that what Paul's getting at here and what he is often talking about in his letters is saying you need to think about what shapes you. What's shaping you as a person? What sort of form are you pouring yourself into? Are you being shaped by the empire, by the dominant culture? Or are you being shaped by the kingdom of God? Are you being shaped by the values of the dominant culture, things like rampant consumerism and profit at all costs and peace through violence? Or are you being shaped by the kingdom of God, by the values of that kingdom, by peace through compassion, about humility, generosity, radical hospitality? Which of those things is shaping you? And then he pushes it probably further for us to say, what is shaping the church? What shape are we taking as First Christian Church even? Are we being shaped more by the dominant culture? Or are we being shaped by the kingdom of God? I recently heard a lecture actually here in town by the biblical scholar Walter Brueggemann, and he said what he thinks Paul's getting at here is it's about reclaiming our baptismal identity, who we are when we are baptized. What is it, the identity that we take on there? And that it's far too easy for Christians to adapt an identity that makes us fit into the culture, into the dominant culture, into the empire that we live in, instead of the identity that we find in Christ. Now that's hard to do, though. I mean, we're raised from childhood to conform to the dominant culture, aren't we? We've all been to school. You're taught in school how to sit in little rows of desks. You're taught how to sit in a chair all day, even though that's not your thing to do. We're taught to stand up when we're supposed to. We're taught to walk in single file lines. We're taught to respect authority. All those things were taught, and frankly, you need to learn those things right, or you can't be a success in the dominant culture. And even the church has been really good at being part of the dominant culture. Up until just recent history, the church was a big piece of the dominant culture. I mean, if you went to church on Sunday morning, everybody that you knew would be there. All the people that wanted to be good, respectable citizens of the empire went to church. That's what you did. And we looked at the church people to say, those are the good people, the nice people, the people that behave, the moral people. They were part of the dominant culture. In fact, the church for too long has sided with the dominant culture, with the empire, and all sorts of social issues that we probably should have been struggling with more. So if you look at the history of the church, we don't have a very good track record when it came to things like racism, slavery, women's rights, gay rights, poverty, war. Our own denomination, the Christian Church Disciples of Christ, we very often have sort of been at the tail end of these things. After the whole culture has shifted and decided to go a different direction, then we've decided, okay, we'll shift too and jump on board and be part of it. And that's only changed recently for our denomination. So what would it mean for us as the church to embrace our innate weirdness, to stop being shaped, formed, conformed to the dominant culture, to the values of the empire, and to really celebrate how Christ is trying to shape us? Because I'll tell you this, what we know about a lot of young people today, I'm talking about people in their 20s, is they don't want to belong to a church anymore that's shaped by the dominant culture. They don't have any interest in belonging to a church that's shaped by the empire. They're looking for an authentic, real experience of faith. They want to celebrate the innate weirdness of who we are as followers of Christ. So I started to wonder, what would happen if we, like some of these other towns, what if we as a church brought in some consultants to help us figure out how to celebrate our innate weirdness as a church and to get the message out about our weirdness? What would it be like to invite some consultants to come and talk to us about that and share their ideas? So, well, let's find out. I want to welcome our consultants here today. We are looking forward to what you might have to say about what would it take to be able to truly promote our church as being weird, as being unique and authentic.
Well, it's our pleasure to be here today. And let me just say what a fine building you have, what a fine congregation, what a really fine worship service, and a really, really fine staff.
Oh, well, thank you.
That said, you're going to have to change everything. I mean, literally, everything.
Everything?
Yep, it all has to go. If the goal is to be hip and cool...
Wait. I didn't say anything about being hip or cool. We're talking about being unique and authentic.
Well, same difference. At any rate, you really need a complete overhaul. So here's my plan. First things first, this room, total makeover. Stained glass windows, gone. That cross, gone. The pews, gone. I mean, come on, you got people sitting on benches like they're at a bus stop or something. So picture this. Beanbag chairs for everyone. No pews, just lots and lots of beanbag chairs.
You mean for the kids?
For everybody. People want to be comfortable. They want to relax. Okay, well, maybe not beanbag chairs. But how about those theater seats that recline and have their own cup holders?
Why on earth would we need cup holders?
See that kids' corner over there? Gone. In its place, picture this. Your very own Starbucks. Right here in this room. People can get their own coffee anytime they want.
Coffee?
Sure, coffee, lattes, frappuccinos, double mocha espressos, whatever they like. Let's go even further. How about snacks, too? Popcorn, candy, whatever people want.
But won't that be kind of a distraction while we're worshiping?
No, they'll be too busy looking at the screen.
Screen? What screen?
See that organ behind us? Gone. The whole wall becomes a giant screen, and you project the entire service there every Sunday with digital projection and a state-of-the-art sound system so loud you couldn't hear a baby crying in here. In fact, you don't even have to be there. You can just video record your sermon during the week, and then people come in here on Sunday, grab some refreshments, take a seat, turn down the lights, and let the show begin.
What you are describing is a movie theater.
Well, pretty much, yeah. But it would be your movie theater.
But what we're asking for is to be weird, to be authentic and different and distinct from the dominant culture. What you described is not weird at all. It's no different than everything else our entertainment culture already offers. What's weird about that?
Well, I know you mentioned the word weird, but I didn't think you really meant weird. I mean, you don't really want to be weird, do you? You just want to tell people you're weird. And with the right advertising, customers will believe anything you tell them. And you do want to attract customers, right?
No. We want to gather in disciples and all their unique diversities and help them to go out into the world and serve those in need and speak out against injustice and work for real peace and spread the news of God's unconditional love.
You're right, that does sound pretty weird. I don't think I'm going to be able to help you.
Okay. All right. What about you? What ideas do you have on how we can promote our church as being weird?
Absolutely. And let me just say, I think what you're trying to do here is admirable, to take this tired old institution of church and breathe some new life into it. So here are my ideas. Now, just to warn you, some of them are going to seem a little out there, but just bear with me, and I think you'll see where I'm going with this. First, every Sunday, you sing together. Weird, right? Because where else do a bunch of people in our culture go and sing with each other? And maybe sometimes you even sing really old songs that nobody else would ever think of singing anywhere else. But here, you sing those songs. Weird, right? And maybe each time you get together, somebody gets up and gives a speech. Where else are you going to go in this culture today and voluntarily listen to people who give speeches? It's weird, right? And maybe each time you get together, someone gets up and, and you light candles. Every time you get together, light candles. And maybe on special days like Christmas, you light lots and lots of candles. Oh, and how about this? When somebody wants to join with you for the very first time, you take them and you plunge them in a big pool of water. Weird, right?
If I could interrupt you for just...
And how about this? You come up with funny names for things around your building. Like instead of calling it a lobby, you call it a narthex. And instead of calling it a stage, well, you call it a chancel. And instead of singing songs, you sing hymns. And instead of drinking from a cup, you call it a chalice. Weird, right?
Yeah, I guess that is weird, but what you don't seem to understand...
And you know how everywhere people form groups for kids and groups for adults? Well, my idea is that you become a group for kids and adults. Heck, you should even think about letting the kids lead worship sometimes, or even serving communion and saying the prayer. And here's my best idea. Every time you get together, you must have a meal. Any kind of meal, big, small. Maybe it's a real meal. Maybe it's some juice and bread, whatever. But here's the kicker. You invite everyone to share in the meal. You don't care if they've just walked in off the streets or they've been hanging out with you for years. Your motto is that everyone's welcome at our table. Weird!
All right, but see, all those things you were suggesting, we all...
Wait, there's more! I have lots of other ideas, like once a year you find a reason to smudge your forehead with ashes. Weird, right? And each time you meet, you collect money for those who can give, and you use that money for some projects, maybe like helping the needy or something. Oh, and there's this really weird idea. You call yourselves brothers and sisters, even though most of you aren't even related. But it's like you are a weird family of people who care about each other, even though you don't have to.
Yeah, all right, okay. Just a second. I hate to tell you this, but all those things that you just mentioned, we already do them. In fact, you've helped me realize that a lot of what we already do around here is pretty weird. I mean, we're already really different and unique from the rest of the culture. We already get a lot of practice at being authentic and real, so I'm not sure you're going to be able to help us. Thanks anyway. Well, what about you? As our last consultant, do you have any suggestions on how we can help others see our church as weird?
Oh, I'm not a church consultant.
You're not a consultant. Well, then what are you doing here?
I just wandered in. I'd heard some pretty strange things about you all, and I wanted to see if they were true.
Strange things? Well, what sort of strange things did you hear about us?
Well, I heard that sometimes you have a rainbow-colored sign out front, and that it means you welcome all sorts of people. I heard that you don't just get together in this building. In fact, some friends of mine say they bumped into a bunch of your people a few weeks ago at a drag show, and I thought that can't be right, can it? And then I hear that some of you meet in a bar and in a coffee shops and people's houses and the soup kitchen. I heard that some of you were spotted at the Pride Festival and visiting folks in retirement homes and the hospital. I even heard that a few times a year you worship by going out into the neighborhood and helping and hanging out with people that aren't even a part of your church. And I frankly wondered if any of that could really be true. It all sounded kind of weird to me.
Yeah, I guess it is kind of weird, isn't it?
It is, but I wonder, have you gone far enough?
What do you mean?
Well, what does it really mean to be weird? Could it mean to be holy? Because being holy invites us to do all kinds of things others might think are weird. Self-sacrificing, self-giving, unconditional love kinds of things.
Yeah, that's a good point.
Or could keeping the church weird mean keeping your arms wide open to anybody who might come to join you? Could it mean making space for everyone in their own particularity? Doing that would send a signal that this is a place where others could come and share their own weirdness. But it does make me wonder, who is too weird to be invited to be a part of your church?
Wow, now that is a good question.
Or maybe keeping the church weird just means to be open to keep changing, to be open to the movement of God's Spirit wherever it might lead you, even if it leads you away from what everybody else is doing, away from what others might call church. You know, Martin Luther King had this term, transformed nonconformists. He used that term to describe Christians who were really willing to follow Jesus, especially when following him means not following the ways of the world, the ways of the empire.
Transformed nonconformists. I like that. It's another way of saying keep the church weird.
It just makes me wonder, have any of us really completely immersed ourselves yet in the real possibilities for weirdness when it comes to following Jesus?
That's a good question, too. Well, now we know what would happen if we brought in some consultants to talk to us. Let's give them a round of applause. And so this brings us back to Paul's question then, what is shaping our lives? Are we being shaped more by the empire or by the kingdom of God? Maybe the best thing we can do as church is to be real and authentic the way we are, to speak with authentic and real voices, and to let other people do the same, to make it clear that this is a place where others can come and do that as well. Speaking of being weird, as we mentioned, some of us are now joining together on Thursday nights at a bar that's not too far from here. We're having theological and philosophical and political conversation about stuff that matters, we say. And there have been people who have said, that's weird that your church group meets in a bar, but others have said it's weird in a good way, that you're out there with real people where real people are doing real things. And this week, our topic of conversation was justice. And so at one point, the conversation turned to the situation in Baltimore, and it made me start to think that to be weird as a church, to be a movement of weirdness in the world, maybe we need to be people who stop talking so much and start listening more for the authentic voices of other people. I wonder that we need to be listening more, talking less and listening more for the authentic voices of African American persons and those living in the inner city, to listen to what their experience really is and not be so quick to rush to want to tell them about how they should think or what they should feel or what they should do. It makes me wonder that we should do less talking and more listening to the authentic voices of police officials and those who are out on the streets every day trying to keep people safe, to realize that they have an authentic experience too that many of us can't know without listening to them, that they're doing a very difficult job in an increasingly violent culture, this culture that we live in. And if I could suggest this, maybe we need to not be listening so much to the voice of the media, because the media is rarely interested in authentic voices and real people. Maybe keeping the church weird, keeping this church weird, means being open to those authentic voices, to being who we are, authentically who we are, knowing that God loves us as we are, and yet God desires more for us, and making this a place, a movement, a group of people where others can come and join us and also be authentically and real people, who they are, and know that God loves them just as they are.